I'm Kristen. Sitting in the car, the sun feels warm on my face, and the air is refreshingly clean. My husband, Ethan, takes my hand, his grip strong and reassuring. He brings it to his lips and kisses it, his eyes glistening with relief. I hear Italy is beautiful this time of year, he says, a slow smile spreading across his face. I smile back, my heart so full I think it might burst. I think it is, I reply, and I know a couple who just came into a little extra cash. As we drive away from his parents' house, I can't help but reflect on how we got here. It all started on the morning after our dream wedding. The previous day had been a fairy tale. After a year of stressful planning, endless color swatch debates, and family drama, we'd finally tied the knot. The wedding was a blur of white lace, happy tears, and dancing until my feet ached. We stumbled home in a blissful daze at 2 a.m. Kicked off our shoes, and fell into bed. The next morning, I was curled up on the sofa in our new sun-drenched apartment, wearing Ethan's incredibly soft t-shirt and sipping a cup of coffee. Ethan was in the kitchen, trying to make pancakes, and his off-key humming was the perfect soundtrack to the start of our new life. Our living room was filled with the evidence of our perfect wedding. One corner was dominated by what we'd lovingly named Mount Giftmore, a mountain of beautifully wrapped boxes, gift bags, and a delicate white bird cage filled with cards from our guests, containing well wishes and generous gifts to help us start our life together. We planned to spend the day lazily opening the presents, reading the cards aloud, and just enjoying the moment. Ethan, do you think your Aunt Linda got us another one of her creepy ceramic owls? I called out, a giggle in my voice. He poked his head around the doorframe, a smear of flour on his cheek. God, I hope so. We could start a spooky porcelain collection, he grinned, and my heart skipped a beat. That was the man I married, the one who could make me laugh at anything. Then, the doorbell rang. It was a sharp, insistent buzz that shattered our peaceful bubble. We looked at each other, confused. We weren't expecting anyone. Our parents and the wedding party knew we had a strict no visitors policy for the day after. Maybe it's a delivery, Ethan said, wiping his hands on a dish towel as he went to the door. I heard the lock click, and then a voice that made my stomach turn cold. Ethan, darling, I knew you'd be up. I just couldn't wait to see my two favorite newlyweds. It was my mother-in-law, Victoria. She swept into the apartment like a storm, all flowery perfume and forced cheerfulness. She was always immaculately dressed, this time in a tailored business suit. Her brunette hair was styled into a perfect bob. Her smile didn't reach her cold, calculating eyes. Kristen, dear, you look well rested, she said, her eyes quickly scanning my oversized t-shirt and messy hair with a hint of disapproval. Hi, Victoria. This is a surprise, I managed, forcing a smile. We were just about to have breakfast. Oh, don't let me stop you, she trilled, her eyes already fixed on the pile of gifts in the corner. Oh my, look at all these. Your guests were so generous. Ethan, being the ever-polite son, just smiled. Yeah, it's a lot. We were going to open them later. Nonsense, Victoria declared, clapping her hands sharply. There's no time like the present. You two have your honeymoon to pack for. I'll help you organize. It's the least I can do. Before I could protest, she was in full speed mode. She dropped her designer handbag on the coffee table and marched towards the gifts. It felt like an invasion. This was supposed to be our special moment. Ethan gave me a look that was half apology, half helplessness. He'd always had a hard time saying no to his mother. I swallowed my annoyance, telling myself she was just trying to be helpful. She directed Ethan to get her a notepad, a pen, and 2 large tote bags from her car. We'll make 2 piles, she announced, as if she were running a business meeting. Physical gifts here, cards and envelopes here. I'll make a list for the thank you notes, and we can deposit the cash and checks for you. It'll be much easier that way. I wanted to say that we were perfectly capable of handling our own gifts, but Ethan's eager nod stopped me. "That's a great idea, Mom." "Thanks," he said. So, I sat silently on the sofa, my coffee growing cold as she systematically went through our wedding gifts. She picked up a card, slit the envelope open with her perfectly manicured nail, took out the contents, and made a note on her pad. If there was a check or cash, it went into one of the tote bags. The card itself was placed in a separate pile. The joy of the morning had completely vanished, replaced by an awkward silence, broken only by the rustling of paper and Victoria's occasional comments like, "Oh, how kind of the Thompsons." After about an hour, one of the tote bags was bulging with cards, and the bird cage was empty. My heart sank as I realized all our gift money, the money our friends and family had given us to start our future, was in her hands. Finally, she clicked her pen shut and stood up, a satisfied smile on her face. "There, all done. See how easy that was?" "Thanks, Mom," Ethan said, looking relieved. "You're a lifesaver." "Don't mention it, darling," she said, patting his cheek. Then, to my horror, she picked up the bulging tote bag, slung it over her shoulder, and grabbed her handbag, heading towards the door. I stood up, my voice barely a whisper. "Victoria, what are you doing? Where are you taking that?" She paused at the door and turned to face me. The fake smile was gone, and her face was as hard as stone. "I'm taking this to the bank, to deposit it into my account," she said, her voice icy. The air left my lungs. Ethan looked just as shocked as I did. "Your account, Mom? What are you talking about?" "That's our gift money." Victoria let out a cold laugh. "You didn't really think a wedding like that was free, did you, dear? You didn't think Ethan could afford all this on his own. This is a down payment, the first of many you'll make to pay me back." I was in disbelief. "Pay you back?" "Victoria, you and David offered to help. You said it was your wedding gift to us." She scoffed. "A gift? Kristen, be realistic. The venue alone cost more than your annual salary. We're not a charity. We provided a loan to give you the wedding our family expected." I turned to Ethan, my heart pounding. "Ethan, is this true? Did you agree to this?" He wouldn't look at me. He stared at the floor, his hands clenching and unclenching. "Mom, this isn't the time," he stammered. "It's the perfect time," Victoria cut in. "Before you two go off to Italy on my dime, we need to set the terms." She walked back to her handbag and took out a slim leather folder. She opened it and showed me a spreadsheet, a detailed list of every wedding expense from the save the dates to the last glass of champagne. At the bottom, in bold, was a total of $123,456.78. I've calculated a reasonable interest rate of 5% compounded monthly. Based on the contents of the gift bag, I'll send you the final amount after I deposit it. I'll email you an amortization schedule. The first payment is due on the 1st of next month. I felt sick. The beautiful wedding we'd had the day before suddenly seemed like a lie. "No," I said, finding a bit of strength. "You can't do this. That money was from our friends and family. You have no right to it." I took a step towards her, but Ethan grabbed my arm. "Kristen, don't. Let's talk about it later," he pleaded. His touch felt like a betrayal. In our first marital conflict, he was choosing his mother over me. Victoria smiled smugly. "Your husband is smart. It's best not to make a scene." She adjusted the bag on her shoulder. "I'll let myself out. Enjoy the rest of your day." She cast a disdainful look at the remaining gifts. "Be careful with those. Most are from my side of the family. Consider them collateral." After she left, the apartment was filled with an eerie silence. The smell of burnt pancakes from the stove filled the air. Our perfect morning was turning to ashes. I turned to Ethan, my voice dangerously calm. "Did you know?" He finally looked at me, his eyes full of guilt. I knew she was keeping track of the costs, but I didn't think she'd do this. She mentioned a loan months ago, and I told her we couldn't afford it. I thought she dropped it. I was furious. You thought she dropped it? Victoria, who never gives up on anything, you've been lying to me all this time. Every time I was worried about the cost, you said, "Don't worry, my parents have it covered." You lied to my face. He yelled back, his voice cracking. I was trying to protect you. I didn't want you to be stressed. Protect me? You've trapped us in a huge debt to your mother on our first day of marriage, I shouted, shaking with rage. I walked over to Mount Giftmore. I needed to do something to take back a small part of what was ours. I found the largest, most elaborately wrapped box. It was from Victoria and David. I tore at the paper, my hands shaking. Inside was a top-of-the-line professional espresso machine, the one we'd admired for months but couldn't afford. Taped to it was a small card. I picked it up, my hands trembling. Instead of a wedding message, it was a bill. Espresso machine $1,299.99. Added to your principal balance. Enjoy, it read. I dropped the card as if it had burned my fingers and sank to the floor. A hysterical laugh escaped my lips. It was so absurd, so petty. Ethan rushed over, his face full of horror. What is it? What does it say? He knelt beside me and read the card. His face turned white as he realized the full extent of his mother's scheme. I can't believe this. She's crazy, he whispered. I know. She's your mother, and you let her do this, I said, my voice flat. You let her take our money and now she's billing us for our own wedding presents. I'll fix it, he said, standing up and pacing. I'll call her, go over there, and demand she give the money back. I didn't even look up. Do you think that will work? A woman who drew up an amortization schedule for her son's wedding isn't going to just give the money back. You couldn't say no to her when she was here. What makes you think you can do it over the phone? He stopped pacing and looked at me, his face full of shame. He knew I was right. He was terrified of his mother. I'd always thought his closeness to his mother was sweet, but now I realized it was a leash around our necks. The rest of the day was a blur of misery. We didn't open any more presents. The thought of them made me sick. We couldn't even talk about our honeymoon. How could we go to Italy knowing it was on his mother's tab? Ethan made a few half-hearted attempts to call his mother, but she didn't answer. He left panicked messages, and I knew she was probably laughing at him. His father, David, was a quiet man who always deferred to his wife. Calling him would be useless. By evening, we were sitting in silence on the sofa, the gap between us feeling like a chasm. The champagne from the night before was still open on the counter, its bubbles long gone. It was a perfect metaphor for our marriage. We have to tell your parents, Ethan said quietly. I flinched. The thought of telling my kind, generous parents that their gift had been taken by my mother-in-law to pay off a secret debt was unbearable. No, I said firmly. This is our problem. How can I fix it, Kristen? She has all the power. She has the money, and there might be a contract I don't even remember signing, he cried, his voice full of desperation. You can start by being a husband, I shot back. You can protect me, protect us from her. You should have told me from the beginning. We could have had a smaller wedding or eloped. The fight drained out of me, leaving me exhausted. I got up and went into the bedroom, closing the door behind me. I couldn't look at him or our apartment. Everything felt tainted. I started packing my suitcase, not for Italy, but for my parents' house. I didn't know if I was leaving for good or just for the night. I just needed to get away from Victoria's shadow. When I came out of the bedroom with my suitcase, Ethan was, Ethan? How can we start a life based on such a big lie? How can I ever trust you again? Just then, his phone buzzed on the coffee table. An email notification lit up the screen. The sender was Victoria. My blood ran cold. What is it? I asked. He walked over and picked up the phone, his hand shaking. His face turned ghost white as he read the screen. He held out the phone for me to see. It was the email she'd promised. Attached was the amortization schedule, and the body of the email said, "Darling, here's the payment schedule. Your first payment is due on the 1st. I've also canceled your honeymoon tickets. With this new debt, a trip to Italy is too expensive. Don't worry, I got a full refund. Consider it your second payment. We'll discuss a more affordable vacation later, maybe a weekend in the mountains. Love, Mom." The sheer arrogance of it was a punch in the gut. She'd not only stolen our money and trapped us in debt but also taken away our honeymoon. The trip we'd planned for months, the start of our romantic married life, was gone. But as I looked at Ethan's shattered face, I knew running away wasn't an option. A cold, hard rage took over. "Okay," I said, my voice quiet but determined. Ethan looked at me, confused. "Okay," he repeated. "We're going to play her game, but on our terms," I said. "For now, we'll surrender. You'll send her a short, polite email saying we understand. We'll pretend to accept the debt and her control." "What about the money and the presents?" Ethan asked, horrified. "We'll let them go for now. They're tainted. They're her leverage, and we'll get rid of it," I said. The next day was one of the hardest of my life. Instead of packing for Italy, we packed up all our wedding gifts. We drove to a high-end consignment store, the kind Victoria frequented, and sold everything. It wasn't enough to pay off the debt, but it was a start. Then we went to the bank and opened a secret joint account. We deposited the money from the consignment store and set up automatic transfers to divert a large part of our salaries into it every payday. On the outside, we lived frugally, as if we were struggling to make the payments. In reality, we were building a war chest. Ethan was hesitant at first. The idea of deceiving his mother scared him. But as he saw my determination, he started to change. He saw me not as a victim but as a fighter, and he joined me in the fight. 6 months passed. We lived a quiet, frugal life, united by our secret. We cooked at home, watched movies on the couch, and told everyone we were saving for a house. To Victoria, we were the perfect, struggling newlyweds. One Saturday afternoon, Victoria called. Her voice was sickly sweet. "Ethan, darling, I have wonderful news. Your father and I are selling the house. We're downsizing to a condo on the golf course. It's all happening so fast. And we've found a great buyer, a young couple just like you. But of course, I thought of you first. We want to give you the first right of refusal. We'll sell it to you for the same price the other couple offered. And don't worry about the down payment. We'll roll what you owe us for the wedding into the mortgage." Ethan put her on speakerphone, and I felt a cold dread. I knew it was a trap. If we refused, we'd be ungrateful. If we accepted, we'd be tied to her for 30 years. But as I looked at Ethan, I saw the spark of defiance we'd been nurturing. I gave him a slow nod. "Wow, Mom, that's an amazing offer." We're speechless. We'll need to talk it over. Can we come over tomorrow to discuss it in person? Ethan said, his voice surprisingly steady. Of course, darling. Come for brunch. We'll have mimosas to celebrate your new home, Victoria chirped, clearly pleased. As soon as he hung up, we sprang into action. We spent the rest of the day at the bank, getting notarized documents and printing papers. We rehearsed every possible scenario, every line, and every counter-attack. The next morning, we arrived at his parents' house at 11 o'clock sharp. The air was thick with Victoria's smugness. David was smiling, and Victoria was bustling around the kitchen like a queen. "Mimosas," she trilled, holding up a bottle of champagne. No thank you, Victoria, I said, my voice polite but firm. We sat.